Hello and welcome. Mind becomes intrigued when it enters into the mysteries of consciousness. Most of us look at it with an amazement and questions, is consciousness part of the brain or can it exist independently of the human brain? And if yes, then how it feels like to exist outside of this body? Ancient Vedic wisdom has said a lot about the mysteries of consciousness. But by now, we have very substantial evidence to substantiate that human consciousness can exist outside the human brain. Here we have one of the most striking cases of NDE, and that is the case of a singer and songwriter Pem Reynolds. This case was reported by famous cardiologist Doctor Michal Sabom in his book Light and Death. At one point in time in her life, Pem Reynolds was diagnosed with a giant basilar artery aneurysm. An aneurysm is the enlargement of an artery caused by weakness in the arterial wall. A fatal rupture could have come at any moment and that would have killed her. Initially, doctors offered her no hope of survival, but eventually she came in touch with the neurosurgeon Robert Spazler at the Barrow Neurological Institute in Phoenix, Arizona. Spazler, who was a specialist who was at that time pioneering a rare and dangerous technique, but sometimes necessary technique called hypothermic cardiac arrest or Operation Stand Still. So Dr. Spazler conducted it and following things happened during that operation. In this situation, Reynolds' body temperature was brought down to 50 degrees Fahrenheit or 10 degrees Celsius, where her breathing and heartbeat completely stopped. And that means that ECG record got completely flattened, and at that time, blood was drained from her head like the motor oil is taken out of the engine. Her eyes were closed with a tap and small earplugs with speakers were placed in her eardrums. These speakers emitted audible clicks which were used to check the function of the brain stem to ensure that she remains completely unconscious. That means she had a flat EEG or a non-responsive brain before the operation proceeded. Outcome of the operation was that total surgery lasted for 7 hours and the operation was successful. Dr. Spazler says, if you would examine the patient from clinical perspective during that hour, the patient would be dead by all definitions. At that time, there is no brain activity, no blood going through the brain, nothing was happening. During this period of clinical brain death, Pem Reynolds had a vivid near-death experience in which she felt more awareness than the normal, and her vision was more clear and focused than the normal. She reported seeing a surgical saw, but said it looked like an electric toothbrush. And this is true because it looks like an electric toothbrush. She also saw that her hairs were shaped strangely, and she was alarmed to see that someone was cutting her groin area, and of course that was the part of the surgery. She said that she could hear conversations between operating staff. She heard a female voice saying that blood vessels were too small on the right side, and a male voice suggested that they try the other side. It is amazing that the tiny speakers in her ears were emitting 90 to 100 decibels click at a rate of 11 to 13 clicks per second. And sound at that volume is as loud as of passing away of a train. The volume of normal conversations is about 60 decibels, substantially below 90 to 100 decibels click. So there was very little possibility that conversations could have been overheard. It is even more astonishing, as Dr. Sabom confirmed, that Reynolds never mentioned hearing clicks, much less feeling distracted by them or struggling to hear through them. She also experienced a presence and was pulled towards a light. She says she began to discern figures in that light, including her grandmother and uncle and other deceased relatives, and also people unknown to her. According to Reynolds, the longer she was there, the more she enjoyed it. But at some point, she was reminded that she had to go back. She says her uncle brought her back to her body, but she did not want to go. So he pushed her in, accompanied by a sensation like that of jumping into an ice water. Dr. Spatula, who conducted the complex operation, summarizes that the profound questions raised by Reynolds' NDE. He says, at that stage in that operation, nobody can observe or hear. And I find it inconceivable that her normal senses such as hearing, let alone the fact that she had clicking modules in each of those ears. I don't know how she could hear. I don't have an explanation for it. I don't know how it is possible to happen considering the physiological states she was in. At the same time, I have so many things that I can't explain, and I don't want to be so arrogant as to be able to say that there is no way it can happen. When Reynolds was asked that how she was able to hear, she replied, it was through her non-physical processes. So if you like this video, please like, subscribe and share. If you want to join us, you can join us on our Telegram group, the link of which is given in the description section. Thank you very much for watching.